Welcome, Pewter Report readers and listeners, to another edition, a Victory Monday, Super Bowl Victory Monday edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard, along with Scott Reynolds and the fearless Mark Cook, the one and only Mark Cook, the Super Bowl champion, Mark Cook. Mark, is that the best introduction you've ever gotten on this podcast?
No. Well, it was the loudest. It was definitely was the one that blew my eardrums out the most. I was going to say, how many Celsiuses have you had, John?
I've just started my first. I've just started my first for the day.
Don't believe that. No.
That's the truth. Believe me, I should have had one earlier, a couple hours ago. You could have scraped me up off the floor, but I'm ready to go now because the Bucs are world champions. Scott Reynolds, how are you feeling today on those 3 hours of sleep?
Well, I did not have a Celsius today. I did not enjoy this, but I'm having this orange sickle heat tomorrow because I'm working out tomorrow. But listen, guys, it was a busy day at pewterreport.com. Tons of post game coverage. We put up the mailbag. John, you had a column. I had the 2-point conversion. We had other stories. Shaq Barrett wants to come back, et cetera, et cetera. And I had to get in a nap today. And the great thing about Celsius is it gives you energy. Like this is the antidote to naps. So I couldn't take one of these and get a nap in. I only napped for about an hour, but I'm definitely using this bad boy tomorrow. But let's kick things off, John, with a cool little Celsius promo, shall we? Celsius. There we are. Stay active and energized all day long with Celsius by your side. Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. And as we've talked about for a long time, fellas, no crash. That's the best thing about this. You know why? Because there's no sugar, no preservatives in it. So it's about the cleanest, healthiest energy drink that you can get. And today is the last day for that Celsius subscribe and save offer on Amazon, 30% off. So that's it. If you want to know where you can find Celsius, go to pewterreport.com, click on those Celsius banners. They'll take you right to Amazon where you can order and get some sent right to your house and save money. Or you can also go to Celsius.com, click on the store locator, and find the nearest Celsius outlet near you. Guys, lots to talk about. John, we had a very energetic podcast from midnight to 1 last night. Over 7,000 people have already seen that podcast. Mark, John and I were kind of going crazy at Ray J last night. We were up in the press box. You were actually in the stands. It was a really cool experience, right? Because, a lot of media outlet members, because of the press box being only so big, you had a lot of Tampa Bay media outlets that had to, and even some national outlets that had to go into the stands in what they call the auxiliary press box. I've been there for a couple of Super Bowls that I've covered, sat in the stands. So it's a real cool atmosphere. They give you like an actual seat in the stands. You get to soak up all of the ambiance, the entertainment. You're right there in the thick of it with the fans. Now, not many fans last night, 25,000, but Mark set the stage. What was that like for someone who's grown up in this town? You were a Buccaneer fan just about since birth. You had your Buccaneer footy pajamas at what age, 6 or 7?
I was about 8 or 9, but yeah, pretty soon. Okay. One of my first school pictures I have, I'm wearing a Buccaneer t-shirt. Yeah, no, it's been a long ride. My dad and I my first Bucs game I watched was in 1977, and their second year was a Sunday afternoon, a late game. I didn't really know what football was, but I was learning those kind of things. My dad was watching the Bucs take on the Saints. Bucs went on the road, beat the Saints 33-14. I thought to myself, man, this is a pretty good football team. I like their uniforms. I think I'm going to be a football fan. Little did I know that was the first win in 27 tries for the Buccaneers. Little did I know how much pain that team was going to cost me over the next 43 years. But certainly they did. But you know what? Sitting in the stands and watching them literally hoist a Lombardi trophy, something that we've talked about and we've written about it, and it's kind of a figure of speech, right? Hoisting a Lombardi trophy. To see it in person actually happen, materialize before your eyes, makes some of those awful years worth it. I saw Bo Jackson tell this team, "Screw you." I saw this team, go 10-6 and win the NFC Central at the time in '79. Make it to the championship game, lose 9-0 to the Rams, to turn around and come back the next year and only be 5-10-1 that year. The ups and downs. Doug Williams leaves. So, all of those things were going through my mind as I was sitting in those stands and actually standing in the stands. I didn't sit a whole lot, to be honest with you. But anyway, it was just a tremendous thing. Whatever you think the atmosphere is like at a Super Bowl by watching it on television, it's just nothing like actually being there in person. So thanks to the NFL, thanks to Pewter Report, thanks for everybody who made it possible for me to be able to attend that game. It was just a dream come true. It really was.
Yeah, it was great up in the press box. I mean, we couldn't get the full experience of like the sound, the crowd sound and everything. So I was excited. I actually got home last night around 2:30, 2:45, and I was like, all right, I got to pop in some of the plays. So I put on the tape and I was watching some of the broadcasts. At that point, the coach's tape wasn't up, and I was hearing the crowd. And man, it was just awesome to hear like a real crowd again. Like the broadcast would have been fun to watch too, I think, for those fans who were watching it that way. Man, I think it would have been pretty neat to see that type of experience too. And as the Bucs started to pull away, get that feeling as the crowd seemed that this was really going to happen after all this time, Scott.
Yeah. And, you sat next to me in the press box, John. And, it's funny, Mark, I was just thinking like before the podcast, right? I was thinking about, you and I've been covering this team together. I've been on this Bucs beat for 25 years. Wow. What a 25th anniversary present for this guy right here. Right. But we've been on this thing for a decade or more. And here I'm thinking, John's coming down from Pittsburgh Steelers country thinking playoffs, like what's the big deal? Like, this is like every year. Like what's so cool about this? Right. But it's like, I kept thinking back, and we mentioned it last night on the pod, John, that 2-14 Lovie Smith season, one of the worst seasons I've ever seen. And this was a guy supposed to be better and restore some of the glory, right? From the horrible Greg Schiano years, right? Schiano was 4-12 in his last year, and I don't think anybody thought that Lovie Smith would get half the win total. So it was Jason Light's first year as general manager, and what an absolute shit show that was. And to go from that, well, it just was. I mean, that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the stories from you guys and Trevor. It sounds like it was
And to go from that year, in Jason Light's first year, to watch him build this football team, it's just been absolutely tremendous. And listen, Rome wasn't built in a day. I think a lot of football fans get spoiled by the sudden rise of like the Chiefs when Mahomes gets there. It's like, great, you hit on a quarterback that is a once in a generation type talent. But that doesn't happen all the time. I mean, the Bucs drafted Josh Freeman and Jameis Winston trying to find that guy and couldn't. But Mark, when you look at the 1979 Buccaneers, there wasn't free agency back then. You had to build through the draft to go from franchise expansion team in 76 to no wins. What was it? 0-22?
0-26.
0-26.
Started off losing the first 26, right?
Sorry, didn't mean to shortchange the franchise 4 more losses. 0-26 to knocking on the Super Bowl's door in 1979 with the number 1.
4 seasons later.
4 seasons later, right? I mean, that's an incredible build in 4 years. It took Jason Light a little bit longer than that even, right? But to go
with the help of free agency and things like that. But but it's watching Jason do his thing, and I was here, obviously when he was hired, we both were. We were in that first press conference where we sat in with Jason Light. And, I have all the respect in the world for Mark Dominic. He's a great guy, great family guy. Just was a little bit something different about Jason Light. And you noticed it too right off the bat, Scott. He was a film guy. He was a film junkie. I don't know that Mark Dominic was a guy that would sit and spend hours and hours just watching film over and over. But Jason Light loved to do that, and you could tell. And we always kind of felt that that's what you want in a general manager, right? You don't want somebody just pulling strings and signing contracts. You want somebody that's really, sticking their neck out on the line based on film study and things like that. Yeah. And it's not just film study. Jason Light spends a ton of time, he and his staff, not just Jason Light, talking to the coaches. I remember the Jameis Winston thing. I guess we can say it now. They talked to janitors at Jameis Winston's high school before they drafted him. Mm-hmm. Literally interviewed people inside his high school when they went back that far to try and find out what kind of character he is. But Jason, hats off to him. He deserves this. It's been a long, hard road. Some people say he may have deserved to have been fired long ago. The best news in the world for Jason Light was the Glazers aren't football people, right? They've got to have somebody to head up a coaching search and things like that. So, they didn't have anybody in the organization. If they fired both Jason Light and the head coaches, then what? So anyway, the point is he made it through, and I'm glad that he did because it paid off. And I don't know that there was a happier man in Tampa Bay last night than Jason Light after that game.
I'm sure. And one of the things I think that's so cool about the Jason Light story is that he kind of epitomizes what we should all be doing in our jobs or lives in general. Like, he looked at his process. When he started out, he tried things. He was aggressive. He formed strategies. They didn't work in some instances. Vernon Hargraves and Roberto Aguayo, and there were some bad drafts. I mean, if you go back to the 2016 draft, Vernon Hargraves, Noah Spence, Roberto Aguayo. I mean, that's a disaster of a first couple picks. Right. But across the board, he's really done a great job. Again, everybody would have taken Jameis, everybody, or Mariota, and if you're one of the teams that would have taken Mariota, and neither of them have worked out. But you have to try when you don't have a quarterback, you have the number one pick. So I don't blame him at all for that pick. No. I think Donovan Smith in the second round, Ali Marpet in that draft, Quan Alexander in the fourth round was a good pick. I mean,
Jameis is a talent. The guy threw for 5,100 yards and 30 touchdowns. I mean, he's a talent. The talent.
It was the right pick, and it was the right move to move on from. They gave him plenty of opportunity, which not every team does. Right. He's gonna last longer than Wentz and Goff, and they gave him plenty of opportunity, and not every team does. But I think if you just look at his drafts, outside of 2016 was a bad one, and every GM is a bad one. He's been one of the best drafts. And remember, Justin Evans and Kendall Beckwith both looked like hits, and he lost both of them to freak career-ending injuries. Right. So, I mean, across the board with this team, you have terrific drafting. Yeah. You have an understanding of positions of need and what they need to address. You have tactful but aggressive moves in free agency that are clearly grounded in good tape study and review of character, which Shaq Barrett, not a lot of snaps on tape, not a lot of production on tape, but he saw things that he liked. He knew the character and the work ethic he was getting. He brought him in. The whole process has been great. He's fixed things that he did wrong early on. But my favorite thing, guys, he knew where he was as a football guy. He knew he was going to be weak in his assessments and where he needed some help and some bolstering with the cap, with the money. How do we handle those types of things? He didn't try and do it all himself. He said, I'm going to bring in people who I trust that are going to do it really well. Mike Greenberg and others have come in, have been, again, it's all about the team. He gets that, like Brady gets that on the field. That's why he recruits Fournette and Gronk and all these other guys. They know it's a team sport. No matter how much people want to individualize it, they get that it's a team sport, and Jason Light did that. He's not just a great GM, he's a great leader too, and he brought in a great team on and off the field to get things done.
You mentioned Mike Greenberg, and I mean, I think that was one of his best moves was keeping Mike Greenberg. Greenberg actually started under Mark Dominic, and he gave him an opportunity, and Greenberg,
that's huge too, because not a lot of GMs would come in and keep guys that were there.
Exactly, I agree. Listen, I've been a Jason Light supporter for one reason, because I believe in what he's doing. Okay, that's the reason, and I've told listen, we have relationships, right? I've had relationships with every general manager, Mark Dominic included, Bruce Allen, and Jason Light, And the reality of it is you have relationships, but like I've told Jason, I said, listen, you're not going to like everything I write about. when I disagree with you, you're going to know it. And you're probably not going to like some of my takes, and we can agree to disagree and all that stuff.
Scott, I've seen you tell him things to his face that I cringed. I couldn't believe you were saying the things you were saying to this man directly. I've been in meetings with Scott and Jason Light, beers up in Mobile, in Jason Light's office, down the street in pubs. And I, Scott does not hold back. He says what he thinks, and he's not always right about it. But Jason listens. Jason listens as hard as it is. He listens to and takes everything into consideration, I believe.
Yeah. Well, I think the good thing is I'm not on payroll, right? I'm not a part of the Buccaneers organization, so I'm an independent sounding board. Listen, all of my thoughts and suggestions and stuff. I'm not right all the time. Nobody is, right? But the thing I like about Jason is, and I've written about this before, I won't spend a whole bunch of time on it, but he admits mistakes and moves on. Yeah. And he tries to learn. The other thing is he floods positions because he knows that injuries can occur, that sometimes players might have a step back, whatever. And John, you and I talked about it with the safeties last night. Jordan Whitehead is a starting caliber safety in the league. Is he a Pro Bowler? No, but he's you can win with him, right? Yeah. You can win with Mike Edwards, right? Those are two starting caliber safeties. He had Justin Evans. He could have crossed his fingers and held on for Justin Evans a little bit longer, right? Because he was a second-round draft pick. No, you draft Antoine Winfield in the second round and you throw him into the mix with competition, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about him is he will flood positions. He's not beholden to something. And I think, as I've always said, the reason why the Bucs won the Super Bowl in 2002 is not because of Simeon Rice and Mike Allstott and Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and Rondé Barber and John Lynch. Why? Because they had those guys in Philadelphia when they got their ass kicked and Tony Dungy got fired in 2001. Most of those guys were in Philly getting their butts kicked in 2000, right? Yeah. Some of those guys were on the 1999 team that lost in St. Louis. The guys that won the Super Bowl were the Dwight Smiths, the Greg Spires, the Roman Obins, the Joe Giraviciuses, the Keenan McCardles, the guys that came on that were not maybe A players, but were B players on a team full of A players that were upgrades from C players. And when I look at what Jason Light's done systematically, especially over the last 2 years under Bruce Arians, he has gotten rid of the D players and the C players and has replaced them with either C players or in most cases B players. And I think
the C people and the D people, right? That's part of it too, right? The character, the football character.
Yeah, and sometimes, and listen, sometimes it's not just a great fit. Like there's nothing wrong with Gerald McCoy. He's a very good player, and he's a very good guy. I like Gerald. I respect him. But Ndamukong Suh brought a different type of personality to that defensive front that this team needed, and it's just something that Gerald just didn't have. So that's what I mean by making subtle switches, right? We can argue all day long. Is Gerald McCoy better than Ndamukong Suh? Has he had a better career, or Suh is better? They're probably about equal. And Ndamukong just brings you something a little bit different. And it's those type of subtle moves that have propelled this team and have listen, there's plenty of A's, right? Mike Evans, let's start with him. Levante David, and then you draft a couple guys that are either B's or they're going to be A's like Devin White. But it's getting those C players gone and replacing them with B. That's what builds championship teams.
Teams have personalities, just like people have personalities. And, the three of us have to get along because we work together. Now, if one of us didn't like the other, that would create a problem. And although I may be a great writer, Scott would have to get rid of me if I hated John Ledyard or if John hated Scott. Hey, we're all talented in what we do, but we got to get along. You know what I mean? We've got to have that personality. And again, Gerald McCoy, great guy, wonderful guy. Ndamukong Suh just fit the personality of the team that Jason Light wanted to have. And some of the other guys. And some of them didn't. Chris Baker was a terrible decision. Right. Deshaun Jackson was a terrible decision. But he got rid of him. He didn't try and hang on. It's like people that get married and try and hang on to a marriage for 10 years thinking it's going to change. Sometimes you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. And Jason Light has no problem ripping the Band-Aids off. That's for sure. So I have to give him a lot of respect. One thing you said, Scott, that Jason's also not afraid to do is flood a position with talent. he now, in this draft coming up, he's not going to have any choice but to do that. You know why? Because there's not many holes on this football team. He's going to be able to draft luxury type situations, you know what I mean? Where he can strictly go best player available, because we don't have a need at, slot corner. We don't have a need at right tackle right now. Yeah, he may look ahead to, okay, Ryan Jensen's on his last year of a deal. Maybe we need to draft a young center, things like that. But as far as just, that's why I wrote a couple weeks ago that they could afford to draft a guy like Kyle Trask. I don't think they will, but they could afford to do that because there's not a glaring need where they need a number 32 pick to step in and be an instant starter. Not right now anyway, not with the way the roster's set up.
Yep. Well,
you're right. It's going to make it interesting.
One thing about Jason Light, then we're going to kind of move along because then we have a lot of topics to hit on tonight. Been talking with Jason, and we're shooting for possibly Thursday, 7:30, to have Jason Light on the podcast. So just want to put that out there for Buccaneer fans. Not set in stone yet, but make sure to stay tuned to PewterReport.com and our Twitter, because once we confirm a date and time, and right now it's tentatively Thursday night, we'll see. But because obviously he's busy this week, but he's going to try to make time for us. So,
nice.
John, remember, John, how I was just talking about Scott, being honest with Jason Light and me, sitting back and kind of cringing. One day, remind me to tell you the story of Scott and Greg Schiano in a meeting we had. I literally wanted to crawl under the desk. I thought we were going to get our asses kicked, escorted out of the building, our credentials revoked. Anyway, we'll save that for a better podcast.
But on the work, I've heard some stories. He's got no chill at times.
None.
I got a little hot with Greg.
Yeah, not a little, a lot hot. And I was like, oh God, my career's over. Yeah. Anyway, I hope Geico's hiring or whatever. I was trying to think of a new job.
Honestly, I've never yelled at a Bucs head coach before until then. I literally was like, furious, yelling at him.
Yeah. And
you're pretty chill, dude. Like I'm trying to envision you yelling.
I get a long fuse, but like once it's lit, like back up.
Hey, Greg, say what you want. Greg's a fairly intimidating guy. I mean, he was a buff guy. He was a tough guy. He challenged Brian Price to a fight. He said, "Let's go." I mean, right at one Buccaneer place. He said, "You want some of me? Let's go right here, right now." And Brian Price backed off. I mean,
it's kind of cool too, because you do get some relationships in this business. When Greg got hired at Rutgers, I sent him a text, and he was very congratulatory and all of that. So it's very cool. Also, what's very cool is Extreme Red TV giving us a $10 super chat first of the night. Just discover this podcast. Keep up the great work. That's awesome. We've been seeing this podcast really take off and grow during since the bye week. We're up to 3,200 subscribers now. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure you go to YouTube and go to Pewter Report TV. Click on the subscribe button. It's quick, it's easy, it's free, and all you have to do is just hit it and then hit the subscribe, or actually the notifications button after you hit subscribe. That'll let you know every time I'm on.
Right. We've got some other great stuff lined up for the week. Just to plug real quick, other than Jason Light coming on, also trying to get in this week, cap expert from he works with Pro Football Focus, but he also does his own cap podcast. So we're trying to get him in here. I'll say who that is once I have him nailed down for a specific day. We're kind of working around whenever Jason Light can be available with us. So if it's Wednesday, it's Wednesday. If it's not, if it's next week, it'll be. But we're going to have a cap expert. So you're not going to have to listen to us try to tell you, oh, yeah, they can fit all these guys into the cap. I'm literally going to bring somebody into the show that's going to tell you, here's what you can expect their contract to be for Chris Godwin, for Shaq Barrett, for Levante David. Here's the Bucs cap situation. Here's where they are compared to the rest of the league. Here's how they can make it work. There will be no doubt once you hear this podcast, you will understand what this team is able to do and not able to do. You will not have to listen to the national broadcast talk about, oh, the Bucs can't re-sign any of them, or oh, the Bucs will definitely re-sign everybody. They can bring back Leonard Fournette too. He wants 4 years, $24 million. They can bring him back. No, like we're going to actually lay this out for you, right? Exactly. So that you have a realistic view, and you're going to be the only Bucs fans. Whoever tunes into this podcast, you're going to find it, because I don't think anybody else is going to the cap experts. They're some of the least utilized people in sports media. I don't know why more people don't use them. We're going to go to them, and we're going to get tons of answers and a lot of clarity on the cap situation and the free agent contracts this offseason. That'll be coming up as well in the pod.
Speaking of offseason, right, we're shifting gears now towards free agency, which gentlemen is rapidly approaching. Usually we have the whole month of January to kind of ease into free agency.
This is totally
35 days, I think I heard, that teams can start negotiating with guys.
Yeah, we've been knee deep in playoff coverage, gentlemen. So it's been pretty fun to have it.
It's 79 days until the draft, guys. 79.
Yeah.
Normally, when you start thinking about the draft, it's like 120 days or 110 days or something.
Shoot. Yeah.
Now you've got more than that, bro. Yeah.
And the other thing is we're going to be having plenty of free agency and draft conversation. Next week, we're going to be shifting to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday podcast during the week. So we get to have weekends off for the first time since August. So
we're taking them.
Yes, we're reclaiming our weekends, Bucs fans. But the cool thing is those cool stories that you heard Cook and I talk about. There's only so much free agency and draft talk that we can spit out in a podcast 4 days a week. So we are going to have some really cool stories throughout the off season that we can kind of entertain you guys with. So I saw some comments about, that's an epic Shiano Price story. We've got plenty of those other little nuggets. So make sure you tune in. Don't miss an episode of the Pewter Report podcast for those.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Guys, before we move to off-season talk this year, I do want to talk about some of the storylines from this season. I think that there's been some to me, this has been such a fun team to cover. And I would have said that if they'd lost to the Saints or the Packers or even lost in the Super Bowl. I just think they've been a fun team to cover because there are not many journeys like this. Last year, everyone kind of expected the Chiefs to be there and to do what they did and win. And I think that's kind of how it goes most years. And, and there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy that too. I think that there's something to be said for dominance and established dominance. But I just think it's so cool when a team goes from not being in the playoffs, going out and addressing what holes they had in an offseason and making something happen like this to going all the way and winning the Super Bowl on an 8-game, getting hot winning streak like that. There's a lot of cool storylines that come to mind. So I'll let you guys think of a couple. One I wanted to mention and bring up, I was on the radio with JP Peterson earlier today. Then he asked me, what do you think the storyline with Bruce Arians, what's going to be his legacy when this season's remembered? And to me, it's really more than anything going to be remembered as a leader, guys. Like, this wasn't unlike most head coaches, offensive-minded head coaches who win a Super Bowl. He's not the play caller, that he has handed over much of the reins to Byron Leftwich in that regard. And even as I asked some questions as the year went on about why did you do this on offense, he was kind of quick to say this was Byron's game plan. This was his thought process. This was his idea. He and Brady decided what plays they were going to work out in these situations. You could really tell that Arians took a leadership role, an overseer, CEO type role over this team. It felt like he had his hands in a little bit of everything, certainly, but he really was about coaching people and getting people ready for the next step and to take on more responsibility and to learn and teach. And I just thought it was really cool. I mean, look at all the situations with players that arose during the season. How many coaches would have gotten a guy with Leonard Fournette's personality and background to be a healthy scratch in week 14 and then get him to play their best football a couple weeks later and be a key part of what they're doing? I mean, the past, if that happened in Jacksonville, the Leonard Fournette there, he would have been done, man. You couldn't have gotten him back the rest of the year. And what Arians was able to do with people and coaching them and bringing them along and saying, your time's going to come, keep working. Even with him talking with Vita Vea, we're going to keep winning. You keep getting yourself ready, and the promise that he made there. And I just think he is kind of, people talk about him as this offensive mastermind. I think there's things he's done in the league that have been really creative and good. But I think in some ways, some of what he was doing was outdated. And when he surrendered some of that control, let Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady tweak some things out of the bye, throw in more play action, do more mesh concepts, find more of a quick game, get screens going. When he stepped aside there, to me, that wasn't a sign of weakness or a flaw. That was a sign of strength as a leader. I think it's one of the coolest storylines of the year is how he grew.
No, it is. And Mark, when you look at, and we appreciate Dara's super chat contribution tonight. How did Bowles or Leftwich not get head coach consideration? Huge for Tampa Bay next season. Mark, I think teams really made a huge mistake. I don't even know who the Philadelphia Eagles hired. Never heard of the guy before.
That was one of the worst introductory press conferences, other than Adam Gase a couple years ago with the Jets. It was brutal.
I mean, here's the thing. It's like
I'm going to be honest. I think that guy was probably like the middle of the road hire for some of the hires that were out there. I think there'll probably be 2 or 3 guys who do worse than Sirianni. I'm not saying Sirianni will be great.
Arthur Smith in Atlanta.
I remember David Culley when he was the receivers coach under Sam Weish back in Tampa Bay. And, I don't get it. I really don't get some of these hires. Now,
Dan Campbell.
Yeah, well, I think Dan Campbell's going to be okay. I happen to like that. I do. Yeah,
I
he's
like that. Those coaches like that, Scott, don't turn out, man. Those meathead, we're going to kick your ass and bite your kneecap. I love it. It's great when we watch football movies and stuff, and it reminds me and you of being in high school.
I really
hope
do.
So. I hope so. I was not impressed with his press conference.
Okay, well, it's not all.
He's a nice guy.
It's not about winning the press conference. Like Tony.
Plus, it's Detroit, Scott. It's Detroit. You know how hard it is to win in Detroit.
But Detroit, I mean, listen, Tony Dungy didn't strike fear in anybody in his opening press conference, right? Hi, I'm the new Tampa Bay Buccaneers coach.
That's true. That's definitely true.
We're going to change the culture here, and we're going to get Hardy Nicholson back. It's like, okay.
I love your Tony Dungy impression.
But seriously, Todd Bowles, he may completely fail the second go around, right? He might, or he might be the next Pete Carroll, who got better.
Bill Belichick.
Or Bill Belichick, who got better the second time around.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes we get into the retread cycle and it's like, okay, it didn't work out the first time. But I think Bowles has earned, and that's the key word, earned another shot. But for these downtrodden teams like Detroit, you mentioned Detroit, Mark. Why wouldn't you wait until the two best teams are done? Right. And then either get Eric Bieniemy or get Todd Bowles or somebody off those championship staffs. I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Here's not to disagree. I don't disagree with you necessarily because I'm interested too in I'm interested in what a lot of people. I always say, our vantage point, it's really hard to say who's going to be a good head coach.
Yeah, good point.
Lovie Smith. Right, exactly right.
David Culley hired Lovie Smith as his defensive coordinator. That'll end poorly. That's exactly
I saw
right.
so many people say, great hire by David Culley to start. I'm like, prove that to me. Where?
They had to be sarcastic. They can't. Nobody seriously thought that was a good hire. People think because
they've heard his name before that he's good. Anyway, my point overall, though, guys, is this. A month ago, none of us would have got on this podcast and said Todd Bowles would have been a good head coach hire. I mean, even 3 weeks ago, what he did after the Washington game was unbelievable. I'm writing about it for tomorrow's Bucs briefing. That's why I'm grinding this Celsius, because I'm going to be up late tonight. But he just changed so many things about his defense with everything on the line. His whole identity, not for just even this season as a coach, his career as a coach. This is the last 3 games are the most, I think the last 2 games actually, the most he's ever played 2 high safeties in his career as a coach, they said, according to the stats at Next Gen. I was like, this is crazy. Teams couldn't adjust because it was so unexpected to them that he was able to do that on this stage. So I give him a ton of credit for it. I hope it's a transformational thing that changes the rest of the way he coaches as long as he coaches. I just don't know what to do with that small of a sample size when we project him out as a head coach candidate. Maybe he'd be great. I'd certainly take him over some of the guys that got hired.
But he's not going to succeed or not succeed based on playing 2 high safety coverage. It's the whole personality, though, and that's the thing you have to look at with Todd Bowles. And that's the thing that I would like to, and this is what we missed in being an open locker room this year, John and Scott, was being able to talk to the players and really get a pulse of how they felt about a guy like Todd Bowles. That was something we used to do off the record all the time. Ask guys, what is Raheem really like behind the scenes? What is who was the guy that took, or what was Leslie? How's Leslie Frazier as a coach? Things like that. There's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes, and we missed out on all that. So I don't know, but clearly they loved playing for him last night, and would have run through a brick wall because they executed his game plan to perfection. And that was a question in the Monday mailbag today. Somebody asked me, was this a better defensive performance this Super Bowl or the first one? And I tend to lean to this one, Scott, just as you tended to lean that this is a better Super Bowl winning team. The Buccaneers knew what to expect from Oakland. Now, they maybe knew what to expect a little bit from the Kansas City because they played them earlier this year. But Kansas City is more talented offensively and to me than the Oakland Raiders were, even though the Oakland Raiders were one of the best offenses and had the reigning MVP. It's still night and day, I think, as far as the weapons go. And the fact that they'd already been, they'd given up over 500 yards. It's not like they gave up 400 or 350 or something like that, and it was a close game stat-wise because it wasn't. Score-wise, it ended up being that way. But I thought this was a more impressive win to me of the 2 Super Bowl teams.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to beat the Chiefs the way that this Chiefs team has played and the fact that they've played at this level for consistently for a while, this has not been an up and down team, a team that struggled to find their way. They have gotten Patrick Mahomes and they have just straight crushed everyone. I mean, they've just crushed people. I mean, they should have been probably the D Ford offside. I know there were some other things. It never comes down to one play, but I mean, they really were this close to being in another Super Bowl, his first year out there. So, I mean, they've really been a masterclass in how to build a great team, and the Bucs came out and 31-9 is not close. Like, it was a beatdown.
Speaking of crush, you know who crushed it last night? This guy right here.
Did.
On mybookie.ag. There's no MyBookie promo tonight. That campaign is done.
You just let everyone know.
I'm just bragging. I put it all, and you saw me do it. You saw me place the bet. I put it all 10 large on the Buccaneers money last night.
$10,000?
No, $10, man. That's all I had left in my account.
The first time when I started working at Pewter Report, Scott was talking about a bet, and he said he put 5 large on something. I was like, dude, like, you're really putting money down on stuff. He was like, no, $5.
When you get a family of 4 kids, right, $5 is a lot of money, and so is $10. And so when I bet $10 on something, that's 10 large. That's with plenty of conviction.
Reynolds is cheap. He polishes his nickels and pennies and displays them at home. I mean, we throw them in a change jar. He stacks them up into separate sections, so he knows exactly how many pennies. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so John, to stick to your point, I would say the storyline for me that was probably most interesting, and I've kind of been thinking about this, and there's so many different ones. I'm just going to spit one out. The running back mix between Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette it was so interesting to see it play out. If you would have told me after week 2 that Leonard Fournette would be the playoff hero, I'd say, oh, yeah, of course. Well, didn't you see him get 100 yards and rip off that run against Carolina? He's the better running back, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's Rojo when Leonard Fournette's out, ripping off 3 straight 100-yard games, and all of a sudden here's Ronald Jones coming to the rescue. And it's just kind of been this back and forth. And as much as we saw Rojo improve in 2019, go from being a bust to a legitimate NFL running back, I was like, is this guy, is he like an Eric Rhett or a Reggie Cobb? Is he like a 1,000-yard rusher and that's it? Or is this guy like a 1,300-yard rusher, that next level, a Pro Bowl caliber guy? And I don't know if we got the answer to that this year, right? Statistically speaking, he was at 978, right? And COVID and the broken pinky kind of wrecked his chances. I think he would have had 1,000 yards, but I just don't know if he's that elite guy. And it's going to be very interesting to see, because every time the Bucs had the opportunity to turn the ball and hand it off to Rojo again to have him be the feature back, they didn't. They stuck with playoff Lenny. And that's something you kind of pointed out to me, John. I'm thinking, oh, you're right. That's a very good observation. It's like they want to love Ronald Jones, but I think they like him. And I think that if they don't re-sign Leonard Fournette, which I don't think they're going to, I think you're going to see the Buccaneers draft another running back this year. And actually, you know what, John? We're going to give the Buccaneers a running back. We're not going to tell you who and when. But we have our mock draft, our first Pewter Report mock draft coming out on Wednesday on PewterReport.com. And we will put another running back in there. So you had Keyshawn Vaughn last year, or I should say, well, technically last year, and Rojo. And LaShawn McCoy is going to be gone. So is Leonard Fournette. So you need some more running backs. So,
Right. No, it's a good point about the running back room, man. It's going to be fascinating. You mentioned Mark.
Well, they're going to have to. They're going to have to push James White out of the way, because the Bucs are going to sign him as a free agent.
That's
I mean,
there's
no doubt they're going to bring in a veteran guy that can catch the damn football that Tom Brady likes.
Right.
Tom is going to pull a Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, and this is what I want. This is what I need. And they do need it. We saw it last night. Leonard Fournette had a nice job receiving. Ronald dropped another ball. It wasn't a perfectly thrown pass, but yeah, he had a drop last night in the first half. And so anyway, they're gonna add some talent to that running back room, but they're gonna add some veteran talent too. But I agree with you guys. Draft another guy, because Keyshawn Vaughn didn't show me, as much as they say behind the scenes how much they love the guy. He just never literally ran with the opportunity once given to him. Yep, too much.
Can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, in limited opportunities too. It's not like he was a
right.
feature guy and had a couple like limited opportunities. He dropped the football and fumbled the football. You just can't make those mistakes. Now, the interesting thing about what you say, Scott, is I think you're right. Like this team, like Mark said, is not a team with a ton of holes, and running back is definitely one. I know Mike Garofalo is out here tweeting. The Bucs they want to re-sign Leonard Fournette, but they're also trying to extend Ronald Jones. I'm like, no, they're not, buddy. They're like, what? Just read the tea leaves. Like, are you really think they're trying to re-sign Ronald Jones?
I really don't like throwing shade at other reporters, especially publicly. We'll trash people all day long on our Pew Report group chat and texting stuff. But unless it's Tom Bassinger, I do not like shitting on anybody publicly. I just don't. But Jason LaCanfora, like, when has he been right about anything Buccaneer related?
No,
but I mean, how does he still have a gig?
I don't know.
I'm not jealous at all. I don't want to go national. I've never applied for any other job. You know why? Because I love serving you guys, the faithful PewterReport.com readers, listeners, viewers, and Buccaneer fans out there. I've never wanted to go anywhere else to do anything. I've been headhunted, and I've said no. I've turned down 4-letter networks before, and I said no. I'm fine doing what I want to do, but I don't know how that guy is employed with a national network. He's
wrong all the time.
He's wrong all the time.
Like, if Rappaport or Schefter were wrong like that, like, come on.
He'd be fired.
There's a reason those guys are the tops in the league. I mean, those three and Jay Glazer, and Mortensen. I think Mortensen may be just as good. He's not as much of an insider as he used to be, but Chris is no one's lying to Chris. Chris, if he says it, it's the truth.
By the way, we're talking about Jason LaCanfora because he said during the Super Bowl pregame show on CBS, I think, that there was a chance that Bruce Arians would retire after the game if the Bucs won. Even though Arians had already answered the question point blank over at WDAE with T-Crass and Ronnie and said, hell no. So he left no doubt at all about it. And LaCanfora still gets up and says that a couple days later. Yeah. So, I don't know how he's still employed either. It's crazy. I'm glad Arians did not mince around and just set the record straight. Also love the fact that Tom Brady was literally just like, we're coming again next year, like on the podium. Nobody even asked him about it yet. Yeah. Nobody even asked him. Are you thinking about it? He's like, we're coming for another one next year. I was like, this guy is truly the king. Yep. Like, what an unbelievable moment. He's 43. Anybody else, I think, ever in the game would have just basked in it for a second. He was like, wait.
He's having fun. The last couple years in New England, they weren't fun. He's having so much fun. And you know what? I think he knows that he got robbed. And I think something's going to happen. I think whether it's the vaccines or something, I don't think that 2020 is going to, or I should say 2021 is going to be the COVID riddled year that 2020 was, right? I think we're hopefully turning a corner here at the vaccine and all this. And the reason I say that is because Tom Brady and all these players really had to live a life of isolation, and you hear these players talking about it. And even Bruce Arians saying that it's been a difficult year because you haven't gotten to bond with these guys outside of really game day when you're in the locker room together, right? Guys, I don't think Buccaneer fans know this, but when we're at training camp, they have half the team's locker room is out in
outdoor
the
facility.
Practice facility.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. The other half is at one Buccaneer place. So this has been a team that has been divided, offense and defense, and divided by position groups. And it's close contact, and that's it. And so I think Brady wants to experience all of this fun that he's been having on the practice field and get to know these guys and go golfing with them and have them over, for jet ski rides. And hopefully that day is coming soon, because I think that's what Tom Brady really wants to experience, is getting to know this team better and having even more fun than he did in this COVID-riddled year.
Yeah, it's man. I mean, I think that one thing I learned about Brady this year was that he loves the idea of being a part of a team. Like he does, he just loves it. He loves getting the most out of the guy.
He said that this week. He said, he played baseball and he plays golf and things like that. But the reason he loves football, it's just the ultimate team sport.
Yeah,
and he likes to be involved.
Like that. Yeah, he plays football like that. He doesn't play hero ball. He doesn't do any of that stuff. He knows that it's accomplished as a team, and no matter how good he is, if the rest of the team isn't on that level, it won't matter at the end. It'll be like these seasons with great quarterbacks who never had the team, Dan Marino's and those kind of players who are great players, but the rest of the team wasn't there, and that's why he's so he's so passionate about ending up in the right spot, ending up with a team full of talented players and coaches that are going to listen to his suggestions and bring in players that he thinks can help complement and finish off the team. And, I definitely give Brady a little hat tip too for some of his GM work in terms of helping them convince them to sign some guys and show them ways that guys could fit within what they do and making it happen with those guys too. It's been pretty impressive.
John, how old's Tom Brady?
43.
43. So wouldn't you say in his 20 years of playing with the Patriots that he has literally seen hundreds of former teammates retire, right? Players that when he was a young rookie that have come and gone, guys like Willie McGinnis, right? Teddy Bruschi. Yes. He has seen them retire. And what have they probably told him? Enjoy it while it lasts, right?
Yeah.
The camaraderie, right? The relationships, the locker room, right? Like, enjoy it, savor it. And I think he's listened to those players. And I think he's like, I'm still playing at a high level. I know that's coming. I know, forever golf is coming and vacationing with the kids and Giselle's coming. I can do that. But I only have a finite time, a small window that's closing a little bit more each year to do what the Willie McGinnis and the Teddy Bruschi's and all those Patriot guys, the Mike Vrabels that he's still friends with, right, that have told him, because once you hang them up, you don't get to hang with 52 other guys, on a regular basis and get to know them and have that camaraderie.
You'd be lucky if your wife lets you hang out with 3 guys.
Exactly.
52 more, yeah.
Exactly. There you
go. Ty T says, let Fournette and Sue go, maybe Braid as well. No. Fournette,
you cannot let Braid go. You want Mark Cook to leave forever?
I mean, that would just be terrible. If Braid goes, I go. No, and in all seriousness, Ndamukong Suh, I think, is a crucial part of coming back. I think he'll come back for a little less money, but I think he was just so instrumental this year, particularly when Vita Vea went down, to help set a tone on the defense. I love Ndamukong Suh. He had a sack last night. What he did to Aaron Rodgers in that first game at Raymond James was just, I loved it. I love that nasty attitude.
He had a better year comes back than he had even in 2019, I thought.
Yep. He's playing. You talk about a guy that's found the fountain of youth to a degree. He's still playing at a high level and avoiding injury.
Well, he's one of those guys that's taken unbelievable care of his body too. Sue's only missed 2 games in his career, and I think they're because of suspension.
All right, so here's a little insight. We're getting into the offseason. We can tell some stories now. One of the main reasons why Jason Light parted ways with Gerald McCoy and went with Ndamukong Suh is because
he doesn't like Batman.
Durability. Huh?
He doesn't like Batman. Gerald was a Batman guy, and Jason doesn't like that. No? Am I wrong? That's not where you're going with this?
Light,
I'm sorry.
Superman guy confirmed.
Sorry, I interrupted you again. Go ahead.
No, I think that he probably is a Batman guy, but it really came down to the injuries, the durability, right? Yeah. I mean, Dirk Cutter had his faults, but one of the greatest lines, and it's not his. He didn't invent this line, but he perpetuated it and brought it into my existence, was the greatest ability is availability, right? You can't help the club in the tub. If you're hurt all the time, you're just not as valuable as other players. And so I think that you look at Gerald's track record of injuries and Ndamukong Suh. The only time Ndamukong Suh misses a game is when he's stomping on somebody and gets suspended, right? He's literally stomping on players' necks or stomping on their fingers or legs, right? I mean, that's the only time he's ever missed games.
A long time ago.
Right.
People don't forget, I know. But
it changed, man.
I still cringe thinking about that hit that he put on Josh McCown when he was with the Lions and Josh McCown was the quarterback and they went to Detroit. And amazingly, not only did he not get called for a blow to the head, he wasn't fined. I assumed, I said, well, he'll definitely get fined. No, he didn't get fined either. It was just unbelievable. That Josh McCown, is probably still having nightmares about that hit. And that was just one of many that Ndamukong Suh's had over his career.
Yeah. To me, the situations with Sue and Gronkowski are the same. Like Sue and Gronkowski are coming back to the Bucs for a year or maybe 2 years for Gronk, or a year for Sue, or they're not playing at all. And we already know Gronk's playing, so he's going to be back. They'll figure out a way to make that work with the cap. No problem. He's not really worried about the money, I don't think. Sue, on the other hand, I don't know whether he's worried. Remember, Sue has got the twins coming. I don't think his wife's had the babies yet, and he just got married.
That's definitely a reason to play again. Stay away from having to change diapers.
And he's
definitely coming back now.
Yeah,
and he's the second oldest D tackle after McClendon to take a snap this season. So this is a guy that is already real old for that position. So he might want to retire on top and go out. I mean, it could be the way for him. And so we'll see what he ends up doing. But he's at that. And he's already made a ton of money in the NFL, and he's got a ton of investments and things going on outside the league. So I think he's going to retire. I agree with you, Mark, that he was instrumental to this team and the season and their culture change. I do think they're ready to be able to weather and build without him there. I don't think he'll be a huge loss moving forward, as important as he was this season. Vea needs to take that mantle, and they need to get younger and more explosive. Anyway, in the D-line, it'll bring that need into focus a little bit more if that were to happen. It's just a guess. Maybe he comes back. I'm just guessing that he will end up retiring. We'll see. Steve McClendon's got to be at the same crossroads, I think, this offseason. So there's guys like that on the fringes. And like I said, we will discuss and talk about all these things on this show moving forward. But one of the craziest things was what you wrote about, Scott, in the Fab, was that everybody that scored a point in this in this Super Bowl was newcomer from the offseason. And man, it's just crazy with all the good talented players they have on their team. They didn't need any of them to score. I mean, they did need them, but they didn't actually score any of the points, and they still won 31-9. Just goes to show you how incredibly deep this team is.
2 catches, 9 yards. Mike Evans, 1 catch, 31 yards, although he did have some serious penalties called against him in coverage. But and
the Bucs are going to be just maddening for fantasy football owners next year.
And I think that's a thing where we have some sound there.
Where's that?
That's that'd be Mark. He's got one of those windows open on his.
DJ Mark in the house.
Sorry, it was an Instagram.
I don't know
post.
where the sound's coming from.
I just found a funny meme. I'm gonna send you guys. Sorry. Go ahead.
See, that's the type of work ethic. That's the type of work ethic we love from Mark Cook, right? We're in the middle of a podcast, and he's searching for memes to show us and
to brighten our day.
That's such a Trevor Sickema move. I can't even.
I learned from Trevor.
Trevor emphasized it enough.
Trevor has taught me so much.
Trevor on the pod, don't you think, Trevor? Yes.
Yes.
One of the,
exactly. Yeah. He normally didn't let music play on his phone, though. I will give him that. But I literally was wondering, where's that music coming from? But anyway, it was me.
John, you're still getting props.
Too kind. Still getting props is the lucky charm for this team. All things fell into place. It's more comical that, in my opinion, at this point than anything else. This is the fact that since we've been in Tampa, they haven't lost, and now we get to carry that over all the way to next September, and we'll try our luck at that point in the year. But it's been fun, man. What a fun time to come into the picture on the Bucs scene. I do feel a little bit bad though, because it's kind of like I jumped in right as they win a Super Bowl, and meanwhile y'all have been suffering for ages here, waiting for them just to make the playoffs.
Don't worry,
but
this ain't gonna keep going forever, John. It'll be back at some point. Don't worry.
I really think this is an organization
it always
that's poised
changes.
to turn it around.
The NFL isn't set up for.
That's true, right? I'm not saying they'll win the Super Bowl every year for sure, but I think the Bucs are poised to be. I know everybody's going to look at Brady and be like, "Oh, the window's now." The window for a Super Bowl, sure, they need a quarterback to be able to do that, and they'll need one after Brady. But I just think this is a team heading in the right direction long term. I think they have the GM. I guess the next coaching hire will be important. We'll see what happens with Arians. Obviously, there are still some question marks, long term with the team. But I think that they have a GM who knows how to build a team, and to me, that's just massive. So I think that when you have that, when you know a GM that knows how to build a team from a coaching standpoint and a player standpoint, it just gives me a lot of hope that the future is going to be bright with this team as well.
Well, and one of the reasons why Bruce Arians was hired was because of that longevity here, because it wasn't just having a Todd Bowles, or maybe it's Byron Leftwich, or maybe it's Harold Goodwin, who is a real leader of men, that run game coordinator, offensive line coach. Is Bruce Arians came with a staff that would have some continuity, some longevity, right? Because coaching turnover, and we've seen it here, haven't we, Mark?
Yes, we have.
I came in under Sam Weiss, that's one. Then Tony Dungy, then John Gruden, then Raheem Morris, then Greg Schiano, then Lovie Smith, then Dirk Cutter. I'm on my 8th head coach in 25 years of covering this team. John, you're from Steelers country. How many Steelers coaches do you remember watching in your 30 years of existence?
Watching two in my years of existence, yes. Well, I mean, I was a little young pup, I think, when Cowher got hired, but I've watched 2, Cowher and Tomlin, in my lifetime.
Well, there's only been 3, hasn't there? Wasn't
Chuck
Noll
the right way,
first?
Big Earn. This is the right way. This is, I don't know. I'm not sure how you wear your hats, buddy.
John's not your
buddy,
puppet.
That's right.
All right.
Go ahead.
Big
You want to
Earn,
move this hat? You
around.
try, Big Earn.
There you
Reach
go.
your hand over here.
Definitely looks better like this.
Well, I actually wear hats both ways, but this hat, I don't know. When you're on the
By the way, where did you get that Pewter Report hat? I've worked here for 10 years and I don't have one. Where did that
Oh,
go?
Allison just handed it to me when I was at the event, Glory Days.
No, not one of those. You gave me like one of those like soft, like not the high ridge, the kind of the collapsible kind. And it, my big Earth head, it just doesn't fit. It looks like.
Well, I mean, maybe if you did a better job picking the Bucs record, in terms of your week, maybe you get a hat.
I mean,
I found better memes during the pod.
I was as good as the Buccaneers this year. I won 15 games, so
there you go.
I'm exactly the way the Buccaneers were. I think
actually we all had pretty good records, to be honest. I mean, definitely the best, but still pretty good years for everybody.
All right, here's another little
acorn every once in a while.
Here's the reason why you need to tune into the Pewter Report podcast. So Josh Rosen got re-signed to the 49ers, allegedly.
Did he get re-signed or resigned?
I think
he got resigned to the 49ers.
Yeah, he resigned.
No one else wanted him, and he was just resigned to the fact that he would be there.
Right. Okay. So the thing with Rosen is they had him in here, right? And and everyone's thinking, "Oh, cool! The Bucs found their quarterback of the future." Well, he's got the arm talent, but then again, so does Jameis Winston. But the leadership ability is just not there. He's not a leader of men, and that's
He's
critical
a soft soul. He's a quiet soul.
It's a critical trait you have to have when you're the quarterback. You are the leader, and trust me, there's plenty of guys that are great leaders that just aren't that great quarterbacks. I thought Trent Dilfer was a very good leader, right? I thought that what really sunk Trent was he just wasn't that great of a player,
Yeah, Josh McCown, Jacoby Brissett, great leaders,
perfect
quarterbacks.
Yep, and it just wasn't that way. Yeah,
sorry, Byron. I watched that wind up in Pittsburgh for a few years, buddy. I thought when I heard he was going into coaching that it was actually going to be baseball based on his delivery, but apparently, he's done a fine job of football, obviously.
Yeah, he has. I think he's found his lane, John. I think he found his niche, right?
Yeah, I'm actually writing about him and Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians and how they turn things around from a coaching standpoint this season in tomorrow's Bucs briefing. So make sure you check that out. It's going to be a fun read because we get to look at some numbers that illustrate exactly how much changed. And we talk a little bit about the process of criticizing coaches while leaving room for them to grow and improve and how important it is to kind of be able to do both. We're also going to continue the conversation then on Locker Room. Locker Room is an app that is changing the way we talk about sports. It's the only place for live audio conversations about the takes, rumors, news, and teams you care about. React to sports news as it happens. Gather all your friends and watch parties for the biggest games. Rep your favorite teams. Find your community. Better Sports Talk is just a tap away. Download in the Apple App Store and join the conversation. We've loved Locker Room. Taylor and Matt did a great pregame show before the Super Bowl. Jumped on at halftime and had a show during halftime of the Super Bowl. There was a bunch of Bucs fans in there. Everybody's talking about the game. A couple Chiefs fans jumped in and offered thoughts. It was really cool. There was some back and forth there. Some of y'all that are in this chat, listen to the pod, are also jumping to the Locker Room shows that we do. We're closing in on 100 followers on Locker Room. Locker Room is a brand new app. We are one of the first to start using it. I think we might have one of the biggest followings of the whole app right now, which I'm pumped about. So it's been great to have the attendance there. Tomorrow night, we'll be talking a little bit about we'll get on Locker Room. We'll talk a little bit about the Bucs and the offseason, and maybe I'll even give you some draft nuggets to kick things off. I know we're not quite ready to turn the page on the Super Bowl, but if you got some questions on that, we'll tackle that as well. So make sure you download Locker Room, follow Pewter Report, and you should get notified. I'll send you an invite when we go live on there so you can jump in and talk some Bucs football with us.
Scott, I want to go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, speaking of the Super Bowl, we just want to just talk for a quick second. I'm not going to take up a bunch of time, but my mom, she passed away October 20th, right after the Bucs-Packers game in week 6. And boy, she would have loved this Super Bowl because she still has a bunch of friends back in Kansas City. We grew up. My first football game was a Chiefs game. It was cool to see Christian Okoye there at the stadium last night. He was one of my first favorite football players. When I hurt my knee playing football, I went to the Chiefs doctor for the surgery, and I met Christian Okoye in the waiting room, and it was just a really cool experience for me as a high school kid meeting my first NFL player. And my mom gave me my love of sports. And when I took the job with Pewter Report, she became a Buccaneer fan like that, read just about everything I've ever written, was a huge supporter for me. And she would have absolutely, this is my mom Judy right there with her hero, Rondé Barber. Rondé was cool enough to sign this picture that was taken at training camp one year. And happy birthday, Judy! Thanks for being a great fan. So it was really cool for her to switch allegiances from the Chiefs to the Buccaneers. But boy, what a Super Bowl that would have been for her to see. I know she saw it up in heaven, had some great seats. But just wanted to share that it's been tough not talking to Mom after Bucs games, because that's the time where she would always call me driving home from the stadium, whatever. Not that she would have called me last night at 2 a.m. But she would have been really pumped to see the Bucs win. So this 25th season of me covering the Bucs is for you, Mom.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
She's
awesome.
a good lady, man. I do miss your mom. She always liked me for whatever reason, even when you didn't like me, Scott. Mom.
Wow, what a true saint.
You're a likable guy, you know.
Moms do tend to like me till I start dating their daughters. Then they hate me. But anyway, I just want to say a quick non-scripted plug. Great time and turnout at Glory Days last Saturday for our thing. We had Celsius out there. Our good friends Briar and Sam Greaves came out. Give Briar and Sam a call if you got any need. Celsius was there. They had their crew. They had some very, very attractive Celsius promotions ladies out there as well. There's some photos up on different websites with that. But no, great time with everybody out there. It was fun meeting the people from Glory Days, and the food was excellent. Scott, it was so good. I went back tonight to the one here in Brandon, and I didn't even really look over the menu on Saturday. I just went by and picked up people's wings that I wanted. But I actually had a great meal today. They had a pan-seared redfish, which I know you don't like fish, Scott, but it was tremendous, with a caper sauce. I had a baked potato with it, and more importantly, a $5 24-ounce margarita. Maybe that's why I'm so animated right now. Maybe that's why I'm going to pass out as soon as this podcast is over. Maybe that's why I'm going to rip my shirt off and go howl at the moon. I don't know. But they did not skimp on the tequila. It was tremendous. But it's $5, guys. $5. $6 if you want the strawberry, but it's amazing. This is all day, every day. Same thing with sangria. And take a jug home for $20. That's outrageous to go order. So anyway, quick plug to those guys. Celsius, of course, Briar Greaves. Thanks for showing up and supporting Pewter Report. And you know what? I'm happy for a guy like Briar and Sam, because they've been Buccaneer fans for a long, long time. And so anyway, while we're all patting ourselves on the back and happy, and the fans are all happy, we're always happy when our Pewter Report supporters and advertisers also get to see their team win, because they're real fans out there as well. So anyway,
one thing we didn't do yesterday, Scott, that we should do to wrap up this podcast is our game balls. We didn't hand them out yesterday because we had so many other things to talk about, and because we didn't have Mark Cook on the podcast, and we needed him to be able to do that. So let's hand out our game balls. But before we do that, Scott, we've got a little shout out from our friends at Manscaped, don't we?
That's right. And the reason why we didn't do game balls last night, John, if we're being completely transparent about it, is I didn't want to have to explain at the security checkpoint why I would be bringing my ball trimmer to the stadium.
Would have been a very interesting conversation that I would have loved to have recorded.
Gone through security, But the great thing is here we are talking about game balls presented by Manscaped. Now, listen, fellas, we're in the thick of winter, not here in Florida because it's nice and sunny, but up north, like where my daughter Ellie is, it's 7 degrees in Manhattan, Kansas, and the winter storm is brewing. It looks like 1 to 3 inches are in the forecast, especially when you trim that hibernation bush down there that's taking place in your pants. Luckily, our partners at Manscaped, I don't write the copy, folks, I just read it. Luckily, our partners at Manscaped specialize in products.
Are you saying you can add 1 to 3 with the trim? I'm not sure what you meant by that.
No, you can take it off. You can trim that hibernation bush.
Oh, because you can trim 1 to 3, and that'll make you appear. Yeah, okay, I get it. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's a legit reason to invest in Manscaped, right?
Yeah. So, you guys want a live display right now? Because I got my razor right here. No?
Going with that ad read.
Don't want it. But listen, Manscaped, and you've probably seen the commercials with Gronk. They're funny. It's cool that he's a Manscaped promotions guy. But Manscaped, they're here to provide the best tools for your grooming experience, offering precision engineered tools for your family jewels. This is what I'm talking about, folks. The Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer is the best hygiene for the modern man because of the ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology. The snags in your snowballs are going to be reduced. The trimmer is also waterproof. You can take it in the shower with you and do it. And you can trim in the jacuzzi if you're a savage. That's fine. Manscaped's Performance Package is the best buy of 2021. Now, what is the Performance Package? Well, it comes with the Lawnmower 3.0 Weed Whacker, ear, hair, and nose trimmer, and Performance Boxer Briefs that I actually had on during the game yesterday, and this really cool travel bag. This travel bag is called the Shed, and it comes with this awesome ball reviver and crop preserver. So you get the Weed Whacker 3.0. I'm sorry, you get the
Lawnmower
3.0, and all of these goodies plus the Shed in the Performance Package. And if you want the Weed Whacker, they can do this. They also have got this tremendous cologne. It's called Refined by Manscaped, and all of those tremendous products are available at manscaped.com. Have you ever noticed those nasty nose hairs? John, you probably haven't. You're not as advanced and seasoned in age as Mark and I.
True. But nothing nasty about this appearance.
I know, but trust me, it's coming. Okay?
Dang it. Come on, Scott. Jeez.
It's called age, my friend. You can run, but you can't hide unless you're Tom Brady.
That's true.
But the cool thing is you can get all this stuff at manscaped.com and you can save 20% off. So how do you save the 20% off and get free shipping? Use the promo code PEWTER. So when you go to manscaped.com, use the promo code PEWTER. It will also throw in, just because we're nice and we know that you like Pewter Report, we'll also throw in pewterreport.com t-shirts. We got these available in white, black, and gray. All you have to do is email me at sr@pewterreport.com. Easy to remember, sr@pewterreport.com with your proof of purchase. No financial information on there whatsoever, so you're cool. Just add your address.
Send that to me.
And we'll send the shirt to you as well. So, guys, Valentine's Day is around the corner. It's this weekend. If you don't know what to tell your wife or girlfriend to get you, tell her Manscaped. Ladies, if you're out there watching, not quite sure what to get the man in your life, get a Manscaped. I never thought in a million years, and this is not on the script, this is me speaking to you as a
about your grooming.
I'm afraid.
Right. I never thought in the world that I would want or need this. And once I've started using it, it's legit. Am I kidding, guys? Or
I told you
you aren't kidding. I
years,
told you that before they signed up to promo with us, but I'm glad that you've discovered that and that it's changed your life.
Scott, I shared a room with you for 10 years in Mobile. I could have told you that in 2010 you needed to.
All right, time for the game balls. Yeah. Time for the game balls today. We are about 24, more than 20, well, less than 24 hours out from the end of the Super Bowl. We've got one on offense, one on defense, and we are over time for this podcast, so we got to move quickly. Mark, you want to kick things off with your game balls, offense and defense.
Tom Brady, how can you go without it? Scott and I picked him for the game MVP. We knew it was going to be Mahomes, it was going to be Brady, whoever won it was going to be. That's the easy one. My defensive one is going to be a bit of a surprise, but I'll just call him what you called him in your article earlier today. Deuces, my man, Antoine Winfield Jr. Love that guy. Love his swagger. Love his bravado. Love his, sticking it to Tyreek Hill and flashing him the peace sign. He absolutely deserved that, the little jerk. Anyway, big Winfield fan. They had a great game. Obviously, Shaq, Devin, Levante. There's just Todd Bowles technically should get the game ball. But anyway, that's my pick. Anyway, next, Scott.
All right. I'm going to go with Shaq Barrett. He just, got after Patrick Mahomes, pressured him all day, got him sacked once, multiple hits. I love Shaq. He's one of my favorite dudes in the team.
That is how he talks, though.
But that monotone voice. Oh.
Yeah,
after the game, did you hear him on NFL Network?
But even then, he was exuberant, so but he still had that same cadence in his speech pattern.
Yeah.
He does have that cadence. It's very distinct.
Could you imagine being his kid and him sitting you down to lecture you? You got to do better in school.
You fall asleep.
Dad, I
can't
swear
be talking
to God,
crap.
I'm not going to do it again. Just shut up, Dad. Right.
Yes.
Stop telling me what to do.
All right. So, Shaq, anybody gets after the quarterback, I love. I'm all about defense. I'm all about defensive line. So, he gets my vote. And then, obviously, Brady for Mark's reasons. We picked him as the MVP.
Yeah, the great choices. I'm going to go with Tristan Wirfs on offense. Obviously, you guys are right about Brady, but I'm going to go with Tristan Wirfs just because I think, man, in the Super Bowl for the rookie to be the best player on the field, potentially in the entire game, I think that's crazy. Like, the dude was just unbelievable. I'm watching the tape, and he's literally just picking guys up in the run game. And that's not even – he's been better in pass pro than the run game, I think, this season. But he's been dominant in both. But just watching him just crush people. And he's starting to get better technically, bring his feet up underneath him, hand placement, playing with leverage consistently. I mean, it's just terrifying what this guy can become. I literally think he can be the best tackle in the entire league. Right or left side, that doesn't matter. Both sides are equally valuable in today's NFL. And so I have been blown away by him and his performance. And then defensively, obviously a ton of deserving choices. You could pick basically anybody out there. But I really think that Lavonte David's game is being kind of overshadowed. Just because of that, I want to give him a shout out. Everybody's talking about Devin White and Shaq Barrett, who are deserving and were unbelievable. Antoine Winfield was great. Carlton Davis turned it around in a game after his last game against the Chiefs. I love that storyline for him. We haven't even barely touched on that yet. But, man, I just think Lavonte David's been so long suffering. He made so many big plays, broke up a couple of passes. He had the pressure on the interception, I'm pretty sure on the tip from Edwards to Winfield. He had a pressure again earlier in the game as well when they blitzed him. He was really effective in this game just in everything that he did. Devin White had a tackle for loss, I think, in the second half. Lavonte David was the one that took out the polar and the lead blocker. He just kind of took them both out. White cleaned it up. He does so many little things that you don't watch unless you study the tape that are just so important for this team and allow Devin White to be what he is and other guys to be what they are. I love what he brings to the team. I think it's great stuff. All right, that's it for us on this edition.
We got two big super chats. One to Buccaneer Bruce's birthday was yesterday. Super Bowl was his best present. He's out there in -8-degree wind chill in Overland Park.
Happy birthday to
people scout at me wearing a Bucs jacket. And then we also have another great super chat from Crown 4QH. My father watched his last Super Bowl in Tampa yesterday as he is in terminal status. This was amazing. Such a magical moment. We lost our voices. Certainly prayers and well wishes towards you. I know the feeling and it sucks. But just like my mom got to see a fantastic Bucs win over the Packers 38-10, hopefully you can find some solace in a Super Bowl win for your dad. So hang in there. It will get better.
Yeah, important stuff there and good stuff there. And guys, from now on the podcast, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a new tradition going on in the Pewter Report podcast. Of course, we will continue to say out at the end of the podcast, but also in honor of our friend, Mr. Antoine Winfield Jr., we'll be throwing up the deuces sign when we exit the podcast. And all of you in the chat, feel free to throw it on up. Oh, some of you already have. You read my mind before you even said it. Throw up those deuces on your way out in the comments. We'll be back Wednesday with another awesome edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Riggs always out.